Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, the grandson of a plumber, the prince of pro wrestling, one of the founders of AEW. The man has so many titles, but one that we don't talk about enough is his status as an in-ring technician. The reality is, Cody Rhodes is one of the best in-ring workers in the world today. We saw that in his mixed tag match with three of the most inexperienced wrestlers in the company. He dragged Red Velvet, Jade Cargill, and Shaquille O'Neal to one of the most exciting matches on that episode of Dynamite and reminded us all how good he really is. But why did we need reminding? Why doesn't Cody Rhodes get the respect he deserves for being the ring general he is? The answer lies in the numbers, and it comes down to his booking. Let's analyze. Let's talk about babyfaces and heels in wrestling, the very building blocks of the sport itself. If you watched our last video about the post-Revolution storyline involving Jon Moxley and Kenny Omega, you'll know that wrestling is just your basic storytelling in another form. At its most basic, storytelling is about the hero's journey. The hero's journey involves seemingly immovable obstacles the hero must conquer, a transformation in the hero's mindset, and an eventual battle where the hero finally conquers the villain. This, as you might have noticed, is very similar to the structure of a basic wrestling match. The babyface starts out hot, the heel employs a dastardly tactic to get the upper hand, and then the heel gets the heat. The babyface is seemingly overmatched, but they dig deep down to a heretofore unknown store of energy to make their comeback, and if they are to win the match, they conquer the heel. Now, of course, this isn't to say that this is the way the wrestling matches must be done. In fact, it's very easy to overdo this type of match, and we see it in WWE today. But the variety of matches should come from your variety of characters. MJF will work a match like a traditional heel because that's the character he is. Kenny Omega will work his match much differently because he plays a totally different character. So to explain why there's an issue with Cody Rhodes' match structure, we first have to find a comparable wrestler whose matches are much more effective. Luckily, we have one of those. It's the man who beat Cody for the TNT title. Darby Allin is a babyface's babyface. He's likable and personable, he's cool, he's a great wrestler, but he's also small enough that it's believable when he starts getting dominated in matches. Allin's stories are actually pretty similar to Cody's. Take Allin's feud with Team Taz and Cody's feud with MJF. Both men were sympathetic babyfaces going against evil heels. Both men were massacred on a weekly basis, Allin getting dragged in a body bag behind a truck and Cody getting whipped by MJF and Wardlow. Both men pulled off jaw-dropping moments we'll remember for a long, long time. Allin rappelled down from the rafters to save Sting. Cody did a moonsault off the top of a steel cage to beat Wardlow. They were both painted as sympathetic babyfaces with enough fire in their guts to burn down a building. Here's the difference. Darby's booking works for his character, Cody's does not. Let's turn to the numbers. Now, for a traditional babyface like both of these men, you'd expect to see their match offense percentage, meaning the percentage of time they're on offense in a match, be below 50%. Generally speaking, heels have to get most of the offense to make the babyface comeback believable and dramatic. On our rankings of average match offense percentage, the top consists of mostly heels. Kip Sabian, Matt Hardy, Pac, until a few weeks ago, Santana, Brian Cage. They're all over 50%. Babyfaces in this area include Scorpio Sky, Frankie Kazarian, Dustin Rhodes, and Jungle Boy. Of those four, only Dustin has more than 1 hour in the ring in singles competitions, meaning that these per-hour statistics are extrapolated matches that didn't actually happen. You'll notice that none of these men have been close to fighting for any title, let alone winning one like Cody has, twice. But there's Cody Rhodes, the man who has spent more time in the ring than anyone and has piled up more wins than anyone at 53% of the offense in an average match. And remember, that includes his match against Brody Lee, where he spent 5 minutes without getting any offense in. Where's Darby Allin, our most comparable wrestler? Third from the bottom, with a 43% average. This difference is even more pronounced when you look at our offense for and against numbers, which totals successful strikes, grapples, dives, and submissions in a match. Once again, Cody Rhodes ranks near the top in offense for, both total and per hour in the ring, and his offense differential, the difference between offense for and against, is in the positive. Again, along with all those other heels we talked about. This means Cody is more dominant in his matches than Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, Lance Archer, Wardlow, and Adam Page. And then there's Darby Allin. Once again, the current TNT champ ranks in the bottom 5 in both offense for and offense differential. Allin is almost always behind in his matches, but this is exactly what we want to see if the story is going to be Allin fighting all the odds to vanquish the heel, which is exactly what has happened in each of his 5 wins. Remember too, Allin has a 500 record, meaning half the time he doesn't make the comeback, making it all the more dramatic in every match since you don't know the outcome. Cody? He's 17-2. So let's see this in action in the most recent match for both men. It is once again a very comparable scenario. Both men took on wrestlers of ambiguous alignment. Both of their opponents are at or over the 50% match offense barrier. Both men have very limited time in the singles arena, and both men are remarkably similar when it comes to their fighting styles, according to our styles tracker. On top of all of that, both Scorpio Sky, Darby's opponent, and Penta, Cody's opponent, are in the middle of apparent heel turns. In Darby's case, his match went exactly the way you'd expect. He had just 33% of the offense in the match, spent over 2 minutes in different submission holds, was pinned 5 times and kicked out every time, and ended up eking out the win right at the end with an innovative pinning combination. Classic babyface stuff. And remember, Darby is a champion. Cody, on the other hand, he spent 50% of the match on offense, didn't spend a single second in a submission hold, doubled up Penta on pin attempts, and hit 2 finishers. While he had as many strike downs as Allin, meaning strikes that knocked the opponent down, he also had more total strikes thrown as well as more grapples. And he's not even a champion right now, and that's the story of Cody. This isn't a guy who is just a grappler and nothing else. Both his striking and grappling rating are significantly higher than Allin's, and they're both listed as technical wrestlers in our style database. Oh yeah, Cody has a higher technical rating too. So why is all this important? I just spent the last 6 minutes poring over numbers, but at the end of the day, it seems that I've just landed on the conclusion that Cody and Darby wrestle much differently. So why am I praising Darby Allin while criticizing Cody Rhodes? Simply put, they're telling the same story. Remember when I talked about their feuds against MJF and Team Taz? Both men are asking me to believe that they're in peril. They're getting overpowered by the heels. They have no choice but to reach into that store of energy and overcome all the odds. In Darby's case, as you can see, that's exactly what happens. He tells that story effectively in all his matches. But Cody does not. Cody is on offense for the majority of his matches. You can't exactly have a valiant babyface comeback if you're ahead. Cody is booked to be so good at everything, and to his credit, he is good at everything. His striking, grappling, technical ratings, they're all tremendous. Hell, he can pull out some high-flying moves when he needs to, and that's okay. He should be allowed to do that if he wants to. But if you're going to do that, you have 2 options. Tell your stories differently, or become a heel. The perfect example here is Kenny Omega, maybe the best wrestler ever, and certainly the most balanced wrestler we've ever seen. Kenny's matches are almost always 50-50, whether he's face or heel. He spent over 2 hours in the ring, and his offense for and against numbers are almost identical, while his match offense percentage sits at a perfect 50%. Kenny Omega makes every opponent better, and all of his matches are crazy back and forth affairs. Omega averages well over a reversal a minute in his matches, meaning no one in his matches has the advantage for any extended period of time. Omega ranks in the middle of the pack in every metric we track. You don't see these wild variances in rankings like you do with a guy like Darby, which is what you'd expect from a traditional babyface. Kenny Omega is the perfect example of a guy who can be great at everything and be booked effectively both as a face and as a heel. Cody is booked like a babyface, but his matches are structured like he's a heel. It totally disconnects me from his matches. I'm supposed to believe he's in trouble, but he's clearly dominating. Even when he has a kayfabe shoulder injury he's supposed to be selling, and Penta specifically attacks it, Cody is still on offense for half the match. Look, the NCAA tournament is going on right now. Nobody would believe in the Cinderella story if the Cinderella went from minute 1 to minute 40, dominating the higher seed. That's what these numbers are so useful for. For nerds like us who analyze every second of the professional wrestling we watch, these numbers give us a real basis to quantify what we're talking about. From the beginning of AEW, I knew Cody's matches didn't really connect with me, but now I know why. So what's the solution here? Either produce Cody's matches differently, or turn him heel. I believe he can do either one. This video is not a statement that Cody is doomed in AEW. It's actually the opposite. The potential is there for Cody to play any character under the sun. He can be Kenny Omega and have 50-50 feuds all the time. He can be Darby Allin if he just gives more offense to his opponents. He can be Jon Moxley and be the badass babyface who beats down the evil heels. He can be the evil heel beating down the babyfaces. We even saw him tease this in his feud with Darby Allin. Cody Rhodes is capable of doing all of that. All it takes is a change in mindset. But if you disagree, let us know in the comments. Let's talk about it. Remember to subscribe, follow along with all of our stats over on ProWrestlingMusings.com, and check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify by searching Pro Wrestling Musings. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.